Nataf, nataf, nataf means falling down in drops, to speak by inspiration, by the spirit of revelation. Let's look at Genesis 41 and 42. And Pharaoh took off his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. Now this is very important, very significant, because at that time a king just did not take off his ring. His signet ring was his signature. Taking off his signet ring and putting it on Joseph's hand was very significant. What he was saying was, my power is your power. You have the power that I have. Up until Joseph said, I have power over everything in his house except you. You're his wife. I can't touch you. And so the very one thing that he couldn't touch was the thing that went after him, tried to bring him down. He didn't, but she did. The universal primitive method of covenant was by striking the flesh of the party that was making the covenant in order to become a possessor of his blood or a partaker of his life. In other words, they thought that when they mixed the blood that they became a part of each other's life, a part of each other's blood, but it just represented cutting covenant. And see, this is what happened with Yeshua. He was struck right here in this area, the same area that they would use just to make covenant, cut themselves when they made covenant. And that's where he was stricken. And also he was stricken in his head. And I want to talk about those thorns. Those thorns weren't little bitty, like rose thorns out here. When I've been in Israel, I've never seen any thorns under that length. Most of them are way over that length, but I've never seen any under like 2 inches. They were very long. Down in his head, they didn't just barely prick the surface. They went way down in. So he was pricked and cut covenant through the crown of thorns, through the nails in his hands and his feet. He was that sacrificial lamb, just like we've talked about the covenant. The closest and most sacred form of covenant ever known in the ancient world was where two persons or parties covenanted to become one by being partakers of the same blood. That's what Jesus did. I mean, it's so amazing when you go back and you look at all of these types and these shadows and these pictures that God gave of what he was going to do and how that we're tied in. See, Jesus was the one who became the sacrifice. We didn't have to cut our wrist or our this area in here. In order to become part of the covenant, he did that for us. He became that sacrificial lamb that was on the sides of that ditch that they walked through. All we got to do is just accept in that, believe in that, and trust in him and what he did for us. And he did that so we didn't have to. But as mentioned a little earlier, the striking hands is a general expression of an agreement made, or a pledge made, or a covenant made. Ezra 10 and 19 says they gave their hands. That's the word natan, which means to give, to make, to put, to lay up, to charge, strike, thrust. So even the giving of the hand has an indication of a striking there. Okay, Zechariah 13 and 6. And one shall say unto him, what are these wounds in your hands? Then he will answer, those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. And the word friends there is actually the word ahav. It means my love or my beloved. Oh, I thought that was very beautiful. But the word makeh, the wounds there, it means a blow. A blow of the flail. And by implication, a wound, to be beaten, to be plagued, to be smitten. And that's be stricken. And that's exactly what happened to him. But you've got to understand that striking the hands, smiting the hands, a blow of the hands has to do with covenant. All of these things go to what Jesus went through. He was stricken. He was beaten. He was nailed with nails. He had a sword pierced in his side. He was cutting covenant. Just like the ancient covenant, but he was the lamb. Okay, Leviticus talks 17:11 says, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you on the altar to make an atonement for your souls, for it is the blood that makes an atonement for the souls. And this has to do with them offering this animal as a sacrifice to God for him to accept, to cover their sins. And it goes back to, or goes forward to the blood of Jesus that makes an atonement for our souls. The significance of the blood as a sacrifice for cutting covenant cannot be understated. You've got to realize that covenant revolves to a large degree on the blood. Pretty much mostly the blood. Most covenants were blood covenants or a substitute of the blood, but there was also the shoe covenant, the salt covenant, threshold covenant,
They're somewhat minor compared to the blood covenant because they really all have to, most of the time, are connected with the blood covenant. But all of the covenants, no matter what they were totally binding. I don't know why God chose 7 as covenant number, but He did. And it's so evident when you really study covenant in depth. And the thing is, the ancients knew this. They knew it. It doesn't seem really to be involved that much in the secular covenants. You see it occasionally here and there, so it may have been, it may not have been, but we definitely know that God involved it in His covenants. Okay, there's the Sabbath day covenant, and I'm going to name a list of 7s that has to do with covenant, or where 7 is mentioned in scriptures, and you can actually see covenant there. But anyway, the Bible mentions a covenant of 7 years relating to the end time, or time of fulfilling and completion that's coming. Because most people, when you mention the number 7, oh yeah, it means completion, fulfillment, and filling it up. And I'm like, yeah, it does. But most people have missed the bigger part that has to do with covenant. And in other words, the number 7 is not just God fulfilling or completing something. He's fulfilling His covenant. He's completing His covenant. In other words, the number 7, yes, it has to do with fulfillment and completion, but it has to do with fulfilling God's covenant, completing God's covenant, bringing God's covenant to a conclusion. That's what it has to do with. And that is so important. Why does the devil always try to copy God? He knows that 7 is God's covenant number. That's why you have a treaty or covenant for 7 times or 7 years at the end of time, because he wants to try and copy God. He wants what God has. He wants to be who God is, and he can't. The most interesting thing about the phrase 7 times is that it means 7 beats or 7 strokes as well as 7 years. And I found that to be very interesting. So this 7-year peace treaty that the Antichrist makes with Israel at the end of days really means 7 beats or 7 strokes, which you read in Revelation about the 7 plagues, the 7 trumpets, the 7 seals, almost as if God has a stroke or beat for every 7 years or every year. The 7 is the heartbeat of God because it is His covenant. 7 is, think about the number 7 as being the heartbeat of God. Wow. Because it's His covenant. There are numerous 7s in Scripture, and they point to covenant. Okay, let's start. Number 1, those who buried Salu and his sons fasted for 7 days. 2, David was king in Hebron 7.5 years. 3, 7 sons of Saul are hung to atone to the Gibeonites for what Saul has done to them. Number 4, for punishment for the census that David took, he had 3 choices by God. A, 7 years of famine. B, 3 months fugitive fleeing from the enemy. C, 3 days of pestilence. He fell on the mercy of God and chose C, and 70,000 men died. 5, it took Solomon 7 years to build the temple. 6, orders for Jericho were 7 priests were to carry 7 shofarot or 7 trumpets before the ark, and on the 7th day they were to march around the city 7 times and sound the trumpet of the shofarot 7 times instead of the usual one on every day. Okay, number 7. Delilah weeps 7 days before Samson tells her the answer to his riddle. She binds him with 7 green ropes. She weaves 7 locks of his hair with a cord and shaves off the 7 locks of hair. 8. Ruth's daughter-in-law was said to be better to her than 7 sons. 9. 1 Samuel 2 and 5 says the barren has borne 7. 10. Saul was to wait 7 days for Samuel. 11. The leader of Gilead wanted 7 days to see if any of Israel would help them. Number 12. Jesse made 7 sons pass by Samuel instead of all 8. 13. An unclean person takes 7 days for cleansing and offers sacrifice on the 8th. Number 14. The sin offering with blood sprinkled 7 times toward the mercy seat with a finger. 18. There are 7 feasts: Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, which lasts 7 days, Pentecost, unleavened bread lasts 7 days, excuse me. Pentecost is 7 times 7 plus 1, the 50th day. Trumpets is the 7th month, 1st day. Atonement is the 7th month, 10th day. And Tabernacles is the 7th month, 15th day, and 7 days in booths. Now see, this last one, the 7th month feast, the last 3 feasts, all occur in the 7th month. to me, that tells me that these feasts, these 3 feasts, will see the completion of God's covenant, because they all go together in the end times. These things are going to fall together into place just like the first 3 did. The last 3 are. There was a 50-day interval between the first 3 and the 4th one during the time of Christ. But in this one, I think these are going to kind of fall pretty simultaneously as well. I could be wrong with that. But there's still 7th-month feasts representing the end times, the completion of covenant. Okay, 16. Every 7th year is a sabbatical year. Shemitah begins on trumpets. 17. Every 7 times 7th year is a sabbatical jubilee year beginning on trumpets. Okay, 18. Punishment for not observing the Sabbaths for Israel was 70 years in Babylon. 19. Leviticus 26:2 says, keep my Sabbaths. Leviticus 26:18 says there'll be punishment 7 times if you don't. Leviticus 26:24 says punishment 7 times more. Leviticus 26:28 says 7 times more. And the word is yasar, which means to punish with blows. 20. Many sacrifices consisted of 7 lambs. 21. Deuteronomy says the enemies will flee 7 ways. 22. Joseph mourns Jacob 7 days at his death. 23. Moses meets the 7 daughters of a Midian priest, and one becomes his wife. 24. In Exodus, the water is smitten for 7 days. 25. The menorah was to have 7 branches. 26. The son of Aaron was to wear his holy garment 7 days to consecrate him to the high priest office. 27. The blood is to be sprinkled from the fingers 7 times before the Lord, before the veil. The altar is to be sprinkled 7 times with oil. 28. The birth of a male child made the woman unclean for 7 days. 29. For plagues, a person was shut up for 7 days, examined, then shut up for 7 more, and if they were clean, then they were let go. 30. The lepers sprinkled with ashes of heifer 7 times. A bird is killed, one is let loose. They would wash in a mikveh, that's a ritual bath, and come into the camp. Live outside the tent for 7 days. They would shave off all their hair, go to the mikveh, the ritual bath, make an offering, and use the right finger to anoint with oil on the right ear, the right thumb, and the right foot, and the rest is poured on the head. Okay, 31. When Jacob meets Esau, he bows before him 7 times until he gets to him. 32. In Egypt there are 7 fat cattle and 7 lean cattle in Pharaoh's dream. Then 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. 7 good ears of corn and 7 lean ears of corn. 33. Rachel's handmaid Bilhah bears Jacob 7 sons, including grandchildren. 34. God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. 35. Noah was to take on the ark 7 of each clean animal. 36. The water came 7 days after Noah got on the ark. 37. The ark rested on the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, on the mountains of Ararat. 38. Noah sent out a dove, and it stayed gone 7 days. Jacob worked 7 years for Rachel, 7 years for Leah, and Laban pursued him 7 days when they left. There's a 7-year end-time peace treaty. Naaman was told to dip in Jordan 7 times for healing. God's words are pure, like silver tried 7 times in a furnace. Miriam shut out of the camp for 7 days for leprosy. Defilement by death took 7 days to cleanse. The enemy comes 1 way and flees 7. I mentioned that one. Wisdom has 7 pillars. The stone of Messiah has 7 eyes. That was a good one. The Bible mentions 7 deacons, 7 stars, 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 plagues, and on and on and on and on. There's so many 7s. Each of these all have to do with covenant. Stop right there. This may be the end of this, because I don't think I really have anything else that I can add.